Our next session talks about India's possible leap from being a builder of warships to an exporter of warships. One of the key achievements made by the indigenous defense industry has been the transformation of India from a country that imported warships into one that makes most of its warships. We now look at whether Indian shipbuilding can make that leap from a builder's navy to an exporter's navy. Joining me in this panel discussion are Rear Admiral V.K. Saxena, Chairman and Managing Director, Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers Limited; Shri Jayant Patil, Whole-Time Director, Defense and Smart Technologies, Larsen and Toubro; and Mr. Fernando Formoso Freire, Director, India Business Development and Commercial Division, Navantia. One of the government's key focus areas in its Atmanirbhar drive in the defense sector has been on defense exports. The Defense Ministry has announced a target of $5 billion in defense exports over the next 5 years. Now, this is born out of a realization that orders from the Indian Armed Forces alone may not suffice to maintain a large defense industrial base. One of the areas where the prospects of defense exports brightens is in the design and construction of warships, where India has achieved a very high degree of self-sufficiency. I want to bring in my first speaker for the day, Admiral Saxena. Admiral Saxena, GRSE has been in the news lately for delivering the fourth and the last Kamorta-class anti-submarine warfare corvette to the Indian Navy. This corvette features a very high degree of indigenous content. Could you tell us how this makes you competitive in the global shipbuilding arena, and give us an overview of the Indian shipbuilding, specifically in the construction of warships?
I'm heading the Garden Reach Shipbuilders, which is one of the premier defense shipyard in our country. We were the first shipyard to have produced the first warship, indigenous warship for the Indian Navy way back in 1961, Anna Sajay, which was a seabird defense boat. And since then, we have been making the ships. Variety of ships have been made for the Indian Navy and Indian Coast Guard, starting from frigates to the missile corvettes to ASW corvettes. The only fleet tanker Aditya has been made by the GRSE, the survey vessels, and amphibious warships like LCUs, LSTs, and likewise. And I'm happy to inform this forum is that we have reached to a figure of 105. Century landmark has been achieved by the GRSE, and we are the only shipyard in the country to have achieved 100 plus warships construction and delivery to our maritime forces, which also includes one export warship. In fact, we were the first one to export a warship that was a Barracuda, an offshore patrol vessel, in 2014 to Mauritian Coast Guard. So the journey of export has begun way back in 2014. So that is the kind of thing that has been achieved by the shipyard. And as you highlighted that the best part is that we have now completed successfully a program which was, I would say, a very prestigious one, ASW Corvette program. We were given a project of constructing 4 warships for the Indian Navy, and the last one, of course, got delivered and commissioned on 22nd of October recently. And I must say that it just gives me again very huge amount of satisfaction that in true sense indigenization on a weapon intensive platform like ASW corvettes, we have achieved 90+% indigenization. And certainly this particular project was given a lot of focus and impetus by all the stakeholders, by the Indian Navy, where the design is indigenous. We started with the warship grade steel development from this project, the DMR 249 Alpha, which is being used, which was first time used on these ASW platforms. And of course, thereafter, all the warships which are being constructed in India are using this DMR 249 Alpha grade steel. So various kind of weapon and sensors. When I say the weapon intensive platform, the weapon sensors, if you talk about the weapons, the torpedo tubes, the rocket launchers, they have been designed and developed by the L&T specifically for this particular project first, and thereafter now most of the projects of the Indian Navy are using only indigenous rocket launchers and the torpedo tubes. We'll talk about the guns, SRGM, that is MR gun, produced by the BHL Haridwar. We talk about the close-in weapon guns that is produced by the OFB AK-630 as well as the chaff launcher. Come to the sensors. the surveillance radar, Revati, the EW sensors, the fire control system links U2 and combat management system and plethora of indigenous weapons, sensors and equipment. I think it is a great mix of both private and public sectors to produce this kind of a platform, weapon platform. And with this today, I would say that India can happily say that yes, we have reached to a great Atmanirbharta kind of a level. We have not only stopped with the ASW corporate program, but LCUs, which are out, actually having 8 ships construction program, and there also we have crossed 90% plus indigenous content. Now, what is important for us to note here is that this all has been a great efforts by all the stakeholders. I would not say that is only by the GRSE, also by Indian Navy and many other manufacturers in our country like L&T, like Bell, like BHEL, OFB, and so on, so many other manufacturers and the firms that have done a great job to ensure and support us to produce so many number of equipment, weapon, and sensors. And today the Navy can say that our Navy, where we have got so many platforms, more than 80+% of the platforms are indigenous make. So what we talk about truly that we have become a builder's Navy. And with this complex platform getting built with the majority of the indigenous components, I think we are having a good case to move forward and go for the export of the warships. And I must say that you just highlighted the government policies, the government thrust and impetus that is being given as of today. It really gives me a great amount of confidence that yes, even the government is helping, supporting us. The policies of the government with regard to the having 101 items put into the export, which were imported earlier, have been put in negative list. That is, of course, aimed at supporting the indigenous industry to manufacture, do R&D, and produce the best of the technological equipment within the country. With that, the volume will get created, the capacities will get created, the development of more and more better designs will get done in this country. And with that volume getting done in this country, not only is going to meet the requirement of our own forces, but we can move out and start exporting those kind of equipment and the platforms. So that is what, and also in addition to that, you all know that the another policy has come in that less than 200 crores, everything has to be manufactured within India. Beyond 200 crores, only worth of the equipment and items will have to be sent across for global tendering. And if I see that in 2016-17, we simply had only 131 odd million US dollars worth of the defense export, which has certainly gone up to 1.5 billion in 18-19. And the target by the government of India has set as a 5 billion. So now the 5 billion is not a, I would say, a tall order. It is all possible, but it is going to be achieved by the platform. If you export the platforms, and platform probably would be the, either we look at the warships, not simple warships or not small boats, etc., but we have to go for the high-end warships for the export. And I think that we have the desired now the capabilities. Certainly, I would not say that we have reached to a level of that maturity that 100% indigenous equipment, etc., are completely done up here. But now, having the design capability getting built, we have got the best of the shipyards like defense public sector shipyard, L&T, etc., with us, and the capabilities are world class, and the equipment to a large extent are also getting intensely made. And I hope that in the coming decade or so, in coming years, we will certainly develop more and more capabilities in our country to produce state-of-the-art weapon and sensors.
Thank you for that fascinating overview of the story of indigenous warship building in India, Admiral Saxena. And I want to bring in my next speaker here, Mr. Jayant Patil, who heads the defense business of one of India's largest private sector conglomerates. Mr. Patil, could you give us your perspective on how you see India making this transition from being a builder's navy to an exporter's navy?
Thank you, Sandeep. And let me make the picture complete. After hearing Admiral Saxena, I felt there's one or two additions. What Admiral actually sort of glossed over. I won't say missed out, but glossed over. I think one fundamental point which started with Indian Navy was the need to actually to be a builder's navy. And with that, of course, he talked about the design. So the platform design as a whole started happening in the country, but a platform by alone, all of us in shipbuilding know, would constitute less than 25% value. Where does the rest come out of? So that was the second aspect. What the Navy clearly decided as a part of a grand vision, that we will force, even if there's a foreign OEM, initially it's fine that I may want to import from him, but I will tell him, first ship I will import from you, but the rest of the class actually will have to be produced in the country. And I think that is an aspect which started making a huge difference. Some of our earlier ships actually had the entire weapon and sensor suite from one origin. And we realized that that's not something which is working for us. And then we wanted to do pick and choose what is the best available in the world. And I think that's one area where Indian Navy did amazingly well. Now, when you bring in the east, west, and all kind of equipment, you need an enormously good capability to integrate. And I think that's essentially the VESI came in. I think the design, the VESI, the control in terms of specifications, and of course the quality control, and then building an entire ecosystem. The strength of Indian Navy today, in terms of if we were to look at, is this ecosystem. Clearly, you can see three tiers of industry in it. There's somebody who can completely build warships, someone like us in terms of Larsen who just about in a decade, we started our first orders have been in 2010, but till date, we actually are knocking at delivering the 61st vessel. So that's one aspect, and we had to some extent an advantage that we were building each of those equipment. Must say that over the years, in terms of weapon systems, in terms of engineering equipment, in terms of logistic systems that go on ships, in terms of varieties of life support systems that get fitted on, and most of these actually have been fitted all along last 25, 30 years. My relationship with GRSE and Mazgaon Dock actually go back little more than 3 decades. Now, this is where the ecosystem having been built, we are part of an absolute, I would say, the key element of that overall strategy to build a complete platforms. Now, having done that, for someone of like us who wanted to enter now a shipbuilding, and of course starting with the smaller and the auxiliary ship, which is absolutely right because you start there and gradually build up yourself to some stage. And towards that, we had an advantage that the technology had started moving, and with those technologies, we could design and build a shipyard with absolutely the cutting edge Industry 4.0 technologies, which made us one of those very efficient shipyards. Now, this efficiency, what we built, obviously has been exploited. Today, when we are talking of exports, the government of India not only wants to export a platform, but with some of those extremely, I would say, friendly countries, they wouldn't mind giving them the ability of what we learned in these 60 years to be supporting that country to say, you can build these platforms here, I'll provide you a design, and I'll provide you the manufacturing techniques and methodologies and the entire processes which will enable you to build those there. So it's essentially granting a major capability to some of those friendly nations, and that's exactly where we are now moving. So while we have built our own platforms, we build our own entire set of equipment, we are also here to not only export platforms, but to grant that kind of a special capability to some of these friendly nations, and that's exactly where we were. Again, looking back till about 2010-11, we had hardly seen there was any possibility of exports, and there are few shining examples of those days. And Barracuda is precisely what Admiral Saxena talked about, and we had a significant role in terms of the equipment that went into Barracuda. But that point onwards, if we really look at, export was facilitated by the government only from 2015-16 onwards. And we have also seen that the kind of spiraling growth in exports that the country has seen. I remember in 2013-14, the exports had dwindled with some of the controls we brought in. from typically about 900, 950 crores to as little as around 400 crores. And from 400 crores to last year, having done 10,780 crores, 86 crores to be precise. Now, this has been a huge amount of jump. It's literally 16 times kind of a multiple and even larger to that extent. So last 4-5 years has seen an enormous amount of exports. I would guess a large amount of it has actually come out of initial years, out of the offsets. But the post certain number of years later is truly what we have designed and built in the country. Now, one area where design and build has made India extremely strong is in the naval shipbuilding area. And when I say shipbuilding, is not only the vessel, but right entire ecosystem associated with it. Today, if a navy says, I have an old platform, I need a new class kind of capability. I want it to do a land attack system to be installed. I want an ASW capability to be granted to me. I want an air defense capability to be granted me, and state of the art latest. We today have each and every of these capabilities right within the country. We can simply go and empower, and that's essentially where the government clearances start making all the difference. So we have seen this is also behind us today. Government is extremely facilitative of taking this out. And at that stage, when we know that we can give elemental capabilities sort of modularly to be fitted out, this is the absolute right time to start doing a complete platforms. Now, when we talk of complete platform, look at the history what Admiral Saxena very rightly talked about. We've done more than 90 ships in this country and 19 classes of vessels. Now, each of this is truly an intellectual property of the nation. Now, this is what truly can be exported in the form of a complete platform where we have absolute kind of a track record of having created them ab initio. Of course, the private shipyards have created some of the additional designs, but those are primarily on the auxiliary side. And that's essentially where today one can juggle around at least 20-25 classes of vessels, which India can say they have been created out of nothingness. And from that nothingness, the entire range is out, available to be exported out. And that's essentially where I agree with Admiral Saxena. We truly require a collaboration there.
Solar, making India self-reliant in ammunition.
Thank you for giving us the private sector's perspective on how India can become competitive in the global sphere, Mr. Patil. Cooperate and compete. Competition. That should be the motto going forward. I want to bring in Mr. Formoso, who's been listening to you very patiently. Mr. Formoso heads the India defense business of one of Europe's largest defense shipyards, Navantia. Now, Spain and Navantia's story is what we in India are trying to emulate. How Spain made the transition from being a builder's navy to an exporter's navy. And that's one of the reasons Mr. Formoso is here in India today to offer us technologies that Indian shipyards might not have. Mr. Formoso, before I ask you to speak, I want to tell you this very interesting Spanish maritime proverb that I read recently. Quien no se arrisca no pasa la mar, which means he who doesn't venture doesn't cross the sea. Could you tell us how Spain crossed the sea and became a defense exporter, a warship exporter?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to say that it's a pleasure for me and a privilege to share this event with all of you. Admiral Saxena, Mr. Patil, Mr. Unitan, thank you for inviting me. And it has been a pleasure listening to both of you. Well, our main message today is yes, the leap is possible. And this is not an opinion. we say this based on our own experience. Navantia strongly believes in and is fully committed to the Make in India and Make for the World initiatives through transfer of technology programs, which are a reminder of our own story and that have taken us to the position in which we stand today. We started building ships with foreign designs, strategy, equipment, materials, and well, we have managed to evolve through transfer of technology, indigenization, internal re-engineering, and a lot of effort to a situation where we now design, build, commission, and give life cycle support to the most advanced ships of the Spanish Navy. We think that this process can be replicated in any shipyard, and in fact, India is already on its way, and these initiatives of the government will boost the process. This, believe me, makes a difference. It's not the same if you have to walk alone or without the appropriate regulatory body. And now I would like to share with you the main keys that have helped us make the leap. First of all, I think it's very important to build up a good and stable relationship with your own Navy, because you need to have a balanced building plan over the years and reference ships already in operation to have access to the export market. It is very difficult to export if you only have a paper ship. And if the requirements of the Navy are demanding, are innovative, good, that is what you need, because it will help you to improve faster. Before you can export, you need to become competitive in all aspects, in technology, price, quality, time to market, you name it. Good is not enough. You need to position yourself among the best ones globally, because you are going to encounter those best ones everywhere you go. So benchmarking is a very important key. You have to guess where you are in with respect to these best ones, to your competitors, to the ones you are going to encounter when you export. And you have to identify your strengths and your weaknesses and make a plan, which includes infrastructure, technology, skills, and processes. Make a plan to improve your strengths even further and to try and get rid of your weaknesses. For example, many companies, the company has to act as one unity. Integration is very important. And we saw that many companies are vertical, very vertical. The departments, the silos have the power. And the horizontal view of the company is weak. We think that it's very important to find a balance between this vertical departmental view of the company and the horizontal view, the view of the project, of the product flowing through the processes. And of course, the integration is not only inside your company. You have to integrate also in your processes your suppliers and your customers. You need strong project teams with good leaders. This is very important. Of course, you will have to select a good technological partner. For example, Navantia, why not? We have a lot of experience in technology, in transfer of technology programs. And lately, we have developed successful programs in Australia, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, developing local capabilities through collaboration with industries, associations, and academia. And I think the same approach is good for India. Well, be patient. Being patient is very important because this process takes time. more than a leap, this is a progressive change or a continuous improvement. It never ends. And if you are feeling comfortable with what you do, maybe you have stopped improving. So it's very important that you are a little dissatisfied with what you are doing all the time. It's very important to try and increase your technological self-reliance and the indigenization in every program, little by little. Let us talk about Toyota, for example. They started this continuous improvement right after the Second World War. And even today, they say they have a lot of things to improve, and they are successful exporters. And we also think that competition is good. If you have tough competitors, this is very good because it will help you grow. Protection is not so good. You have to be exposed to the market. Another important thing is specialization. You cannot be the best in everything you do. You have to concentrate in the kind of ships you are more confident with building. And if you want to have a broad catalog, you have to split the company in several divisions, or you must have several shipyards. Then when you are already among the best ones, when you feel confident and you have the product you need, then you can start thinking of exporting. You will have to make a commercial plan, a global commercial plan, but it's very important to act local. It's very important to hire local people wherever you go and put them into your project team. We know several cases of shipyards naval shipyards that wanted to fill in the gaps between every naval program with merchant shipbuilding, and they reached an agreement with a foreign OEM with a very different culture, speaking another language, and they told us that the key to success, because they were able to make a profit from the very first ship they built with this design and the strategy and materials from the foreign OEM. The key was hire people, former employers of the OEM, because otherwise the different culture will be a big problem. And I think the most difficult thing when you export is understand your client's needs. It's very, very important to understand your client's needs. You have to give them not more, but not less. Not more, because if you give them more than you require, you will waste your resources, and not less, because otherwise you will have dissatisfied customers. So you have to be flexible. We know many shipyards that build fantastic ships, and they are cheap, very technological, but they're not flexible. And so maybe you think you have the most efficient design, and your customer is going to ruin it, asking for some modifications, but you have to find a balance between that efficiency you think you have and your customer needs.
Thank you, Admiral Saxena, Mr. Patil and Mr. Formoso, for that very engaging discussion.